2016 Hyundai Elantra 2-liter engine, and we'll be replacing the coolant and the thermostat on this vehicle. So to start with, we will get under the vehicle and we'll remove the engine shield. So on the driver's side you will have your valve for the radiator to drain the coolant, but for now, just to avoid making any mess, we'll remove 10mm bolts. 1, 2, 3, seems like 4 bolts, and few plastic clips to get the shield off. So the shield is removed, and now when we look at the driver's side, there is a valve, drain valve for the radiator. But before we touch, I don't know why it's not focusing. Okay, so there is the valve, this one. And before we open the valve, we will get the catch train underneath, and we will also go under the hood and open the cap. So this vehicle is still quite warm, and you don't want to touch this when the vehicle is hot, since the coolant is under the pressure and under high temperature. So we will let it cool down a bit, and then we'll open the cap. So now when the cap is opened, we will get under the vehicle and open the valve. Okay, so this valve could be tough to start, so you might need to use the pliers, but after you just go slowly out, and you will see coolant start draining. And you don't want to get it all the way out, since it will be coming from the plug itself. So that's where it's coming from. So we will let it drain. In the meantime, we'll get checked where the thermostat is. So, if you're looking under the alternator, there is that big hose going to a plastic flange where it says up. That's the thermostat housing. And to remove it, there are 2 bolts. You can see one, and the other one is on top. And I will try to remove it without taking the alternator off. Not sure if it will work, but we'll give it a try. And if it does not, we will have to take the alternator off. But for now, we will let the coolant drain. Alright, so while coolant is draining, we are under the vehicle and we are looking at the thermostat over there. And as you can see, there is that shiny bolt, or a nut I should say, and in front of it there is a wire going up to the engine head, and that wire is on the way. So to get that wire out of the way, you need to disconnect the battery first, then to disconnect this connector, just pressing over here and pulling, and then this connector sits on the bracket, so you just pull it to the front and it comes off. So now that entire harness can go slightly up, and now we have clear access to that second nut on the thermostat. Still probably will be easier to reach it from the top. I'll try to give you some vision. So that's the bottom nut, and there is the top nut, and it seems like it's 13mm. So as soon as the coolant is drained, we will disconnect that hose going to thermostat, and we'll try to remove the thermostat. To get that clamp off, we'll just use channel lock pliers. squeeze it, push it back, not squeeze it enough. So the clamp is off. Few droplets coming out of the radiator, so I have another catch tray underneath, and we'll try to remove that with the hose. Sorry, you cannot see much, there is so limited room here. Still a bit of coolant coming from the hose, not too much. So the hose is off right now. Let's try to get the thermostat out. Alright, so the thermostat is out, and I was using 13mm socket with a small extension and 1/4 inch ratchet. Important thing to note, when you remove the thermostat, you should check where this tiny bleeder is located. So in our case it was 12 hours all the way up. So now we can check the new thermostat and make sure that that one is the same. So here is the new thermostat, looks quite similar. So we will install it also with this tiny bleeder up, and that was the part number for it, 9727192. Coolant depot. So we will get the thermostat in first, and then we'll install the housing on top, and we'll get it all tight. One tip, to get your nuts started, you may want to tape them to the socket, and when you get them started, you just pull the socket out together with the tape and then torque it to the spec. When the bolts, I should say nuts, are in place, we'll just torque it to 20 Newton meters, or that's around 170 inch-pounds. The thermostat is torqued to 20 Newton meters, and another thing to mention, when you torque it, make sure that you go gradually from one side to another. Don't go all the way on one side, having the other side loose, since you are compressing the O-ring. So now we can go back and install the hose and put the bracket on. So this bracket has to be put on, and we should be good on the thermostat side. So now when the thermostat is replaced, we can put those connectors back. So the first one will go on the bracket, and we just take a look. So we just slide it on, and the other one goes on it until you hear a click, and you are good to go on these side of things. So now what we want to do, this is the reservoir for the coolant, and there is still coolant in it. So to get better displacement ratio of the coolant, we can either remove this hose here and let it drain, or we can remove it from top where we fill the coolant and take it down, direct it into the container. Either way will work. I just need to make sure that we drain on this coolant too. So I removed that hose from the top, so now we can raise the coolant without having a big mess. So after this is drained, we will install it back and we'll fill it with the fresh coolant. So for the coolant, we're using Hyundai coolant. It's just about $30 jug, and this is concentrate, so we will mix it with some distilled water. I prefer to put 60% coolant, 40% of water, since there will be some remaining coolant in the system, so we want to compensate that. And also with the Canadian weather, 50-50, I think it's good till like -37 Celsius. So what happens if we get to -45? So you want to have that extra protection over there, and you don't want to go higher than 70-30, because after that the coolant becomes too corrosive to the system, so it will start to eat your radiator and all other parts. And also, I checked the manual, they also recommend to put 40-60 mixture. So we have coolant ready. We have closed the valve. Don't forget to close the valve on your head. I'm using this funnel since there is no actual reservoir on top of the radiator. But if you don't have a funnel, you will just have to put a tiny bit through a longer period of time, just not to lose any coolant coming from the neck of the radiator. So let's get it filled until it stops taking any coolant, and after that we will start the vehicle. We'll keep adding coolant as the level goes down, and wait until the thermostat opens. After that we will know that the system is fully filled, and we will do some massaging on the hoses to make sure that all the air came out. We are at 4 liters of coolant now, and you can see that there is a tiny bit left. So right now we can reach to the return hose and just press on it, help some air to come out. And if you see bubbles, awesome. And then we will use the supply hose on this side, the top hose, do the same thing, pump. So we can see that the level stays basically the same, no much air is coming out. So at this point we will reconnect the battery and start the vehicle to let it warm up to the normal operating temperature, what is around 90 degrees Celsius. We will make sure that the temperature gauge goes up. Then the thermostat opens, it will go down a bit, and then the coolant will be circulating through the radiator, and we will check the coolant level over here. So right now you can see that the temperature is getting closer to the normal operating temperature. So we would expect the thermostat to open here, the coolant go through the radiator, and then the fan kick in. So when the fan kicks in, we know for sure that the temperature is getting about 90, and also we can check radiator at that point to see if the thermostat opened and if we get in the coolant flow through the radiator. So right now we will just let it run until we can hear the fan kick in, and at the same time we will be checking the coolant level in the funnel. Alright, so the fan is on. The coolant level went a little bit up, we can see some bubbles. We can try our hose, and our hose is hot, what means that we have coolant flow through it, and this hose is hot too. So now we know that the thermostat opened. We can do a few more pumps to make sure that there is no more air. And at this point we are good to shut down the vehicle, remove the excessive coolant from here, top up the coolant reservoir, make sure that it is filled up to the full line, and put the engine shield back, and that should be it. Thanks for watching, guys. Do it yourself.